Hello and welcome back to another tutorial. In this video I'll be sharing how to make a corset crop top, and if this is something that you are interested in learning or knowing how to make, you definitely want to keep on watching up till the end of this very video. So I went ahead to draft out my patterns. These are my pattern pieces for the front, the back, and the cups. Using the pattern pieces, I cut my front panels on the main fabric and the lining fabric. Then I ironed interfacing on the wrong side of the fabric and on the wrong side of the lining as well. So this would give the fabric pieces thickness. And for the back pieces I did the same thing, ironed interfacing onto the wrong side of the main fabric and the lining pieces as well. So these are all the pieces that we'll be needing for this project. So for the cup part as well, I ironed everything down and pinned them together just so I don't lose any part, or so I know where each cup piece goes, and I labeled it left and right so I know what part is for the left and I know what part is for the right and I don't get confused. So these are my bra cups. I took a dart from the center of the dart. As you can see, I took a dart from the center of each cup, and what this does, it just helps the cup become a lot more rounded and firm as opposed to using it as it is. So these are my cup pieces laid out here. Now to begin, I'm going to join the darts for the fabric pieces. I'll be joining it on the main fabric and on the lining fabric as well. So I'm just going to take all these pieces for the brow cups to my machine and join along that line for the lining and for the main fabric as well, ensuring that I don't mix up any of those pieces while I sew. So this is what the bra cups are looking like after sewing. You can see that it's nice and steady, and that's because of the interfacing that was ironed on the back of the fabric. So this is the right cup, as you can see. So I'm going to match it with the right fabric piece like this, place it onto it, ensuring that those dart pieces are aligned, or those dart lines rather are aligned. So to do this, I'm just going to secure it with a pin at the top, just so the dart on the breast cup matches with the dart on the fabric. So I'm just going to pin that down just so it doesn't move around. Then I would basically pull till it fits. I'm going to pull the fabric till it fits the cup, and I'm going to stitch it all the way around to hold it down and make it firm and secure before attaching the lining piece to it. So I'm just going to go and sew this all the way around just so it is firm and secure. Then I'll come back and show you guys what they both look like. And I'll be doing the same thing for the left piece as well, or for the left cup too. So after stitching on the cups, this is what they look like. It's really nice and firm and steady, and this is a new technique I learned, by the way, so I am going to apply it to this video. So what I'm going to do next is to take the matching lining piece and attach it from the top. So the lining piece from the right, I'm going to place it onto the top of the right part, right sides facing. Then I would pin the top together and top stitch it, or stitch it together. So I'm just going to pin it first just so it's held down and it's secure before I take it to my sewing machine. So I'm just using pins to ensure that I pin it down nicely. Now, the thing about cutting your lining pieces with your pattern pieces is sometimes your lining tends to be shorter, but the good thing about this is that since I'm attaching the lining separately to the cup before attaching the lining to the main bodies, it's not going to be so much of a difference, because now the lining is going to be strictly attached to the cups and not to the entire lining piece. So these are what my cups look like. Then for the front piece, I'm going to be using this bias tape to make boning cases. And to do this, I'm just going to mark the midpoint at the top here and come down, mark the midpoint of my waistline, then connect it to that midpoint at the top. So this is going to be my first boning casing, which is going to be at the center front. So what I'm doing basically is to divide that waist measurement into two and mark the midpoint before connecting it back to the top of the parts we just marked. So that's where my first boning casing is going to be. You can make as many bone casings as you want, but I'm doing basic bone casing. So here I'm going to mark half of my bust span measurement. Then from that center line on the waist, I'm going to mark 2.5 on either side of that center line, and that is because I do not want the bias casing to be straight towards the bottom. That's this side boning casing. I don't want it to be straight towards the, but I want it to have like slanty kind of look. So hence why I'm using 2.5 and 4.5 at the top and 2.5 at the bottom. So you can use your own bust span measurement. So my bust span is currently 4.5 divided by 2, or 9 divided by 2, which is 4.5. So I'm going to pin the bias along those marked areas just so I know where it is going to go before I take it to my sewing machine to sew. So just look at what I'm doing and I'm sure you'll understand the process. For the back pieces, I'm going to go 3 inches from the center back, and that is where I'm going to be putting my boning casing for the back. You can do as many or as less as you want, so you just play around till it becomes to your taste. So this is what I'll be doing for the back. So I'm just going to stop stitch that bias onto the fabric pieces on the front and on the back as well. Then this is what they look like once they have been stitched. I went ahead to iron it out. So these are what the front pieces and the back piece look like. So next up, I'm going to be joining the front and the back together on the side. So using my measurements, I'll be joining the front to the back on the side. So I'm just going to stitch that down on the side, and after which on that joining there, the point where the side part where the front was joined to the back, I would be I'll be inserting a bone casing here. So after joining that side together, I'm going to open it up, iron it open, and insert a boning casing right on that joining. So I'm just going to go do that and show you guys what it looks like. I would also be joining the lining pieces on the side using my body measurement. So I'm just going to place the sides of the back to the sides of the front and stitch. After which, this is what they look like after it has been stitched. I also inserted that bone casing on the side like I said I would. So what we'll be doing next is to make loops for the strap. So I'm just going to cut each piece to be 2 inches long before it is folded to make a loop. So each piece that I'll be using for the loop would be 2 inches long. So I'm just going to cut that 2 inches into how many loops that I would need. But first, we'll be making the spot where the loops would be inserted. So what I'll be doing is to come down from that top by half an inch. So from the top of that top back, I'm going to come down by half an inch, and that's where the first loop is going to be. Then from that first part, I'm just marking 1.5 inch intervals. So each loop is going to be 1.5 inch away from the other, and that is what you see me marking out currently. Then when I get to the very last one, I'm going to leave a spacing of half an inch at the bottom like I did for the top, which we'll be using to stitch the ends closed later, which we'll be using for the hem at the top and at the bottom. So that is what you see me doing, half an inch spacing from the bottom. Then I'm going to mark 1.5 inch intervals, which we'll be using to make the loop spacing for this project. So at this point, I have attached the loops on either side of the fabric. You can see them here. So these are all my loop pieces here. So what I'm going to do next is to take my lining piece and place it right sides facing onto the right side of my main fabric. Then I'm just going to stitch that center back close. Now do note that I will not be stitching the top and the base close. I will not be turning them over with the lining, because I intend to do that with a bias tape much later. But if you do not intend to use a bias tape to seal the top and the base of your corset, you might have to top stitch or seal the top and the base as well as the center back using the lining. But for this very crop top that we are making, I will not be sealing the top and the base using the lining, because I intend to use bias tape for this, like I said. And yeah, so I'm just going to go stitch the center back close, which is the part that has the loops. So I'm just going to go stitch that part close, and now what you see me doing currently is just aligning it and arranging it just so it comes out really nice. So I'm going to do that and show you guys. So after stitching the sides, this is what it looks like. You can see, like I said, I did not turn the top over with the lining, but you can do that if it's something you would prefer. So this is what it looks like. I only turned the sides over using the lining. So this is what we have. Next up, we'll be attaching our cups to this. So I'm just going to go ahead and stitch the cups down where they are supposed to be, ensuring that the right cup is on the right side and the left cup is on the left side. So I'll be going ahead to stitch that down and show you guys what it looks like much later. Before I stitched on the cups, I went ahead to turn over that top edge using the bias tape like I said I would. And next I'll be attaching a boning into all boning casings, and I'm using the plastic boning for this. You could use any type of boning that you prefer. So do note that, like I said earlier, you might have to close the down of the top or the top of the top using the lining piece if that is what you prefer. And from this top part, I'll be stitching that close much later, or I'll be concealing those rough edges much later. So what I'm going to do next is to stitch this down and show you guys what it looks like. So for the back piece, this is what everything is looking like at the back. I concealed this rough edge using a bias tape. Now I'm using black bias, so it's obvious for you guys to see. And how I did this was basically to stitch the bias tape, one end of the bias tape, to the seam allowance on the back side. Then I would turn it over and top stitch it, and this would help to conceal the roughness on this side. Now I find that stitching on the lining to the cup separately and stitching the lining to the fabric separately helps me a lot, because most times when I do that together, the lining tends to be smaller or less or a lot tight, and there's not so much room for movement inside. So I started stitching the cup of the lining separately before attaching it to the main fabric. Then for the bottom, I stitched on the bias tape to conceal the edge, and this is what it is looking like at this point. I'm really happy the way it turned out. So yeah, this is how I now make my corset pieces. So I'm just going to iron this and kind of figure out what kind of sleeve I want, because I haven't really figured that out yet. And if you found this video helpful, just let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section. If you have any question or comments or suggestions that might help in the corset making art, do let me know in the comment section. And yeah, this is pretty much it. If you're a first timer here that haven't subscribed, you should join the family by clicking on the red subscribe button and leave a like, share this video, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just going to iron this down while I think of what kind of sleeve I want to attach to this. So yeah, this is basically what we have for this cup or for this top, and I'll see you guys in another video. Bye.